Welcome back to Tao of Twang. I'm Dave. We got a fun one today. I had a lot of fun making this track. It was a real spontaneous thing. I kind of knew what I wanted to talk about today, but I was like, I just need, a three chord, um, rock progression. And I just kind of grabbed that E and off we went, right? And, this is not a sophisticated recording and mix that we're playing over here today, right? I banged those chords out. And I was like, that sounds cool, So I kept it, first try, whatever, and I just threw some bass on it and found the drum loop. Even after the fact, I added the drums in after the guitar was recorded, So um, not my best work on mixing, but it sounds cool and it's fun to play over. So, what we're doing here is we're going to take cage shapes or different shapes for these three triads E, A, and D. They're all major triads, and work out three zones uh, on the neck using different shapes, but playing those same chords in that order. Okay, it's not nearly that complicated. Um, so, what you need to know, I guess, sort of prerequisite to this is some of the basic shapes of chords, right? Um, and if you're familiar with the cage system at all, that will be very helpful. But I'm going to show you, we're only going to use, I think, three different shapes because when you move them around the neck, different combinations of them, you've got the different chords by just moving, higher or lower on the neck. It's kind of the beauty of the whole cage deal, right? So here's the riff. Then it starts over. Kind of an odd number of measures how it starts over too, right? Um, don't get hung up on that. Just go off to the side. It's at a little bit higher tempo. The backing track that I'll have for you at the end of this. But it just sounds good like that. I tried it at different tempos right before I recorded it, and it needed to be up tempo. But that doesn't mean you have to jump right in there right away with that. So, E, A, E, A, D, A, start over on E, okay? So, let me get my foot rest here. The first set is of shapes is right down there, right? Pretty familiar looking shape. Right, just to demonstrate each chord. Now, the second grouping is here. E, A, then D, A. Okay, so this shape right here, of course, is one of the things that's featured in the cage system. They would call that a C. I'm not going to go through every one and name all the letters and everything because it just gets confusing. I like to call chords what they are. It's E, right? But it's that familiar shape, right? Keep it simple. That's it. You move this C up to here, it's E, right? And you got to kind of, seal off some of the open strings there, unlike you don't have to down here, right? Now, the other thing I think that's important about this is that we don't always have to play all six strings, right? Within that larger shape, I can find triad shapes that are just made of three strings, three adjacent strings even. Okay, not going to name all the chord tones and stuff either and just get everybody bogged down, right? If you want to analyze those three notes, you will find that they make an E major triad. These three do as well. Right? So there's another familiar shape, right? that's now an E because of its location on the neck. And so that's the important thing about this, is that you can see within these larger shapes that there's when I play it that way, your ear tells you, right? You know those are your ear knows those are triads. Ba-da-da. Even though they're starting on different chord tones. So then for the A, right, same thing. I've got right. So if that makes sense to you, great. See if that seems, if you have questions about that, that's good too. But this is where you want to do some work. Take that chord, look for different 3-string sets that make that triad. Use your ear, not just your eyes and diagrams, but use diagrams if you need to. If you're not familiar with these shapes at all, then definitely look them up and look at them, right? If you are, then just keep going. There's the D. Now this one, there's one, that one I will point out a little bit, spotlight it more, because sometimes I notice, folks aren't as familiar with this one, right? Because when we do this, we kind of mute out that high E, right? It's just we just exclude it. But that gets you a triad, a root, a third, and a fifth. You can take those notes out and see if I'm right. Here's another one. Okay. Now, when I come down to here, okay, that's a D. It sounds good. It's like a power chord, but it's not a triad. Think about it. There's 3 notes in there on 3 adjacent strings, and it's part of this shape, but it's a root, a fifth, and another root. Okay, so it's a power chord, we call it. It's a root and a fifth, but there's no third in there. Can't really say that that's a triad, but of course you can use that in most situations for a major chord. So now here's what we've got. Now I'm going to move to the next group. Now, what you saw me do in the intro and what's going to be more useful to kind of add on to do more licks and integrate this into more of kind of a mixture of chords and single note playing, which is one of the topics that in my recent survey, several people mentioned they would like to see featured on the channel, is when you do these kind of smaller versions within that larger one, you get more action, you get more of an ability to move around, so if I went, see that makes sense. I'm just going to show you that one. You could do, several in each place, but that's those are the ones you're going to want to be using, and they're the ones that were featured in that intro demonstration as well. I just mixed in some other, bends and things around them. But if you look back at that, those shapes are right in there. So now we're up to our next region. Okay, so we want to start on E and then A. Okay, notice I went back here and I'm kind of not, it's not as convenient. It's not as handy. I'm not like right there. But it can be if we simply replace this, take your index finger and play it right there. You don't have to have that root on the bottom. You already have a root. right there. Right? So that's a nice one because now I can go. That's A. See? And C. Right? I don't want to confuse you. Right? So it's like, see how it's the same shapes just moved around. When you move them higher up the neck, changes it to a different chord, different root. So now you've got E, and then we got a D right there. Okay. And then the last one really mirrors what was going on down here. Now, see, I took that clunky old bar chord right there. You don't want to play a whole bar chord up there on the 12th fret. I mean, maybe, the Ramones or somebody would definitely put up a good argument for that. Yeah, we do, right? And you can, but again, you don't have to. You can play these sort of truncated, 3-string versions, and it gives you a little more dexterity. See how that one's D? Right? It's important to see a couple of these things, and then you can kind of generalize it to the rest of the neck. That's a D. And it's within all three of those. I'm trying to keep eye contact with you. I didn't want to. I knew it wasn't right, so I didn't hit it yet. It's going to sound like, not good. So that's our 3 zones. Now, what's going to happen in part 2 in a couple of days? So you want to really get that down, work on it off to the side, be able to move through all of that. Okay, and then in part 2, we're going to add licks and things around them, like you saw in that intro. And I don't want to demonstrate too much right now. I don't want to get you to the practice loop and keep you focused on this chord shape part. But it's going to be fun. We're going to do some pentatonic stuff that's kind of surrounds each one of those groupings, and it'll sound cool, and you might surprise yourself. Let me know how this goes, okay? See you in the comments. Great to be with you. Talk to you later.